social psychologistic theory that individuals are influenced by the people around them. Now, in this book, there is something said of it as an introduction to conformity. They said that people are influenced by the people around them. They're saying that sport fans in a stadium is the first example, would doing together the wave, lifting all together or in a row, the arms up. Or that they were chanting together commands like defense to the players or something. Another thing here listed here is that political candidates would take the polls and show that they are leading in the polls. The idea behind it would be then that the idea is that some people are more likely to vote for the party which is winning because they want to have voted for the party which have won, is an idea. And another idea is that people were bringing about around the bartenders or musicians a jar to collect money, and they're putting previously money in so that the people see that money was already put it in. And now when in this introduction they set a little scale and they said the person can be then have conformity or compliance or obedience, or on the other hand, independence, assertiveness or defiance. And now this influence that can be destructive or constructive, it can be helpful, it can be hurtful, it can be by a single person, a group, an institution. And then they said general society has multiple things like that. For example, standing in a queue in a line, that would be something which has practical, useful things. Other things, the influence on groups might be not so positive, is when listed two examples. The one is to drink because other people are drinking alcohol, or to participate in offensive jokes on bullying because the other people are doing it. And then there is argued that many people see themselves as more individuals and more independent, and that they would reinterpret the task or reform it so that they can see themselves more independent. For example, was there then a task that the people should ask for a seat where a person was sitting in a subway, and they would then invent that they have an illness. So they didn't want to just ask and break the social norm, that they, for no obvious reason, would get the seat, but that they would invent that they have an illness, so that they can get the seat. So generalists argued here in the first pages to the introduction of conformity that people are influenced by the people around them. And it's something very easy. Then another example would be a little experiment. One person was looking up in New York to a building, and 80% of the passerbys also took one glance up. So very simple to say. He has argued that a singular person is influenced by the people around them. And that is according to Social Psychology by Sharon S. Brehm and Saul M. Kasson from the year 1996 on the pages 332 and 333. But the positions and views expressed are the ones of the source and don't necessarily align with my own. Hi and welcome. I'm trying to learn social psychology, today conformity. After we've done it, we're going to do squat training. And if you participate in the squat training, then it's at your own. Sports fans spread the wave around the stadium and chant defense in a spectacular show of unity. TV producers insert canned laughter into situation comedies as a way of increasing viewer responsiveness. Political candidates trumpet the inflated results of their own public opinion polls to attract new voters to the winning side. And bartenders, waitresses and musicians stuff dollar bills into tip jars at the start of an evening to encourage the consumers to follow it. All these examples illustrate people often imitate one another automatically and without conflict. Okay, let's go first. What was said here was said that people are behaving like the other ones, and there are situations in there that happens pretty obvious with many people. For example, people doing the wave, or lifting the picture here, lifting the arms up around the sports stadium, and they're also chanting them all together a slogan, like defense in football, something, or also in could be something else. And also in sitcoms or other things, there are laughter under it. Political candidates saying how many people are voting for them, because there is the idea that many people are voting for the party which will win. So they're saying we are leading, and people are voting for the party because they believe that it will win. It's an idea that it is happening. And also people who are collecting money, sometimes putting at the beginning their own money into it, so that the next people see, when they see the jar, they all are people who also like it and putting money into it and then do the same. So, of course, you don't need to be a social psychologist to realize that we have an impact on each other's behavior. But how and with what effect? When we use the term social influence, we refer to the ways in which people are affected by real and imagined pressures from others. Kiesler and Kiesler, 1969. The kinds of influences brought to bear on an individual come in different shapes and sizes. In this chapter, we consider three that vary in the degree of pressure exerted on a person: conformity, compliance, and obedience. Okay. In the book, we want to talk about conformity, so how people want to fit in. Compliance, I don't actually know what the word means, but it seems to be a bit more stronger than just that people want themselves more or less to conform, and obedience, which is then probably even more stronger. And so the people around the people have an influence on people, but also that we have an impact on each other's behavior. So in both directions, that the other people around have an impact on the person, but also that that person has an influence on the people around them. As depicted in figure 9.1. Here we go. Conformity, compliance, and obedience are not distinct, qualitatively different types of influence. In all three cases, the influence may emanate from a person, a group, or an institution. And in all instances, the behavior in question may be constructive, helping others, destructive, hurting others, or neutral. Okay, we're having here yielding to influence and resisting to influence. Yielding, we're having obedience, compliance, and conformity. And then resisting influence is independence, assertiveness, and defiance. Or at least, it's like that. Figure 9.1, continuum of social influence. Social influences vary in the degree of pressure they bring to bear on an individual. People may, 1, conform to group norms or maintain their independence, comply with requests or be assertive, and obey, or defy. So that is like 1. So if there is something, people maybe conform and becoming a part of it, or they're staying independent and just becoming not a part of it. Then a bit stronger, some people are becoming compliant. I don't know what the word just means. That is when they are, complying. Oh, it's compliance in the middle. So we're starting in the middle. Conformity, independence, compliance, assertiveness, obedience, defiance. Compliance, that they seem to be, I don't know what the word means. And the opposite would be assertiveness, to be a bit against it to some level. And then obedience means to follow completely obedient, or the complete opposite would be to get defendant against it. So having 3 stages basically is set. If there's something new, people can conform with it or just stay independent. People can be compliant, stronger with it, or having some assertiveness against it, or they can be obedient and follow totally, or having defiance and fighting it. It is useful to note, however, that social influences vary as points along a continuum according to the degree of pressure exerted on the individual. Okay, we're saying that what a reaction comes has also to do with the pressure. How much the pressure they get to go to bed or bedside. To the new thing or whatever the side is. It is also useful to note that we do not always succumb under pressure. I don't know what succumb means. I think that means when it's obedience, but I don't know what it means. People may conform or maintain their independence from others. They may comply with direct requests or react with assertiveness. They may obey the commands of authority or oppose powerful others in an act of defense. In this chapter, we consider the factors that led people to yield to or resist social influences. So yielding, the word I don't know as well, means to follow it, to bend down to it. I think means it now to translate it. And resisting is resisting. Okay, what I just said. There's something new and the people are doing it or just not doing it, independent. They are compliant, stronger, assertive. They are even obedient completely, or defiance the opposite. Conformity. We have a little title. It is hard to find behaviors that are not in some way affected by exposure to the actions of others. As social animals, we, so human beings, are vulnerable to a host of subtle, almost reflex-like influences. We often yawn when we see others yawning and laugh when we hear others laughing. To demonstrate the point, research Confederates stopped on a busy street in New York City, looked up and gawked at the 6th floor window of a nearby building. Films shot from behind the window indicated that about 80% of passers-by stopped and gazed up when they saw these Confederates. So they're saying that in general, there are exceptions, but in general, people are influenced by what the people are doing around them. That is, one idea is that it is with yawning. One person yawns, other people might follow. One person laughs, other people might laugh as well. And there was a little experiment done. Someone was looking up to a building, and 80% of the persons in New York City which passed by also made a little gaze and looked what there might be. Basically saying people are reacting on the things which the other people are doing around them and are influenced by them in general. When social psychologists talk of conformity, they refer to the tendency for people to change their perceptions, opinions, and behavior in ways that are consistent with group norms. With this definition in mind, would you call yourself a conformist or non-conformist? Do you ever feel pressure to follow what others are doing? At first, you may want to deny the tendency to conform and instead declare your individuality. Think about it though. When was the last time you appeared at a formal wedding dressed in blue jeans or remained seated during the national anthem at a sports event? People find it remarkably difficult to breach social norms. In an interesting illustration, social psychology research assistants were supposed to ask subway passengers to give up their seat. A conspicuous violation of a norm of acceptable conduct. This is the first way of thinking. So I'm saying here that the person, maybe as a little interactive game, also might to get them more engaged, should wonder whether they are conforming directly or are they more individuals and living individually. And here said that many people think that they are individuals, but they are actually many, at least following many things. But it's a bit broad to take directly down to these things. Just overall, in general, many people think that they are individuals and living their individual life, but in actually many parts of their life, maybe not in all, are similar to the ones of other lives in a part of conformity, is here argued. Now, in an interesting illustration, social psychology research assistants were supposed to ask subway passengers to give up their seat, a conspicuous violation of a norm of acceptable conduct. As it turned out, however, many of the assistants could not carry out their assignment. In fact, some of those who tried it became so anxious that they prepared to be ill just to make the request appear justified. Okay, I think they're saying a 20-year-old just person is asking another 20-year-old person whether they would give them their seat, and that seemed to be hard for them to do. So many of the people who were tasked to ask the person just lied that they had an illness or something that would make it easier to get the seat. I don't really understand how it fits in conformity. Maybe they're saying the person is not acting individually only if they're conforming with the idea that the person who is ill should get the seat, if they're conforming with that idea that they get the seat, that they're only been allowed to ask. Let's see on. I think we can follow even if not in detail. With conformity being so widespread, it is interesting and ironic that research subjects, at least in North America, who are coaxed into conforming to a group, will often not admit it. Instead, they reinterpret the task and rationalize their own behavior as a way to see themselves as independent. People understandably have mixed feelings about conformity. After all, some degree of conformity is essential if individuals are to coexist peacefully, as when people assume their rightful place in a waiting line. Okay, the first thing here. People oftentimes don't want to admit that they are living more conform than individual, is here argued. And then that if they are now challenged on that idea, they oftentimes redefine the answer that was written. They reinterpret the answer they were asked of a task and rationalize their own behavior to see themselves as independent and as individual beings which act solely on their own individuality. After all, some degree of conformity is essential if individuals are to coexist peacefully, as when people assume their rightful place in a waiting line. Yet at other times, conformity can have harmful consequences, as when people drink too heavily at parties or tell offensive ethnic jokes because others are doing the same. For the social psychologist, the goal is to understand the conditions in which people follow along and the reason for that behavior. So whether these are now examples which should be taken literally as the perfect example, the example named here is that some conformities are to wait in the line, maybe these are also rules and it's dictated, but maybe we're going to read on whether the examples are fitting or perfectly or not. What we're telling is clear. We're saying that the people are living along of conformities, many at least, and that can be waiting in a line. Maybe that's not a perfect example, maybe there are other things for it, but that, for example, following other people who are heavy drinking at parties to fit in. There are also other reasons why people drink, but this is an example. And another example is that some people are making offensive ethnic jokes, that people are making jokes against some people or something, that other people follow to fit in. Now, we understand what we're going to say. Well, these are not perfect, no perfect examples or not. We understand what we're going to say, but there are things that people follow along. And now it is now here about when do people follow along and for what reason do they adapt their behavior to the behavior of the people around. That was the social psychology part. If you were here for social psychology, you can go directly to an expert of social psychology. Then we're going to read on. At some point we will then go back and we try to make about each little section or chapter, a little presentation, and try to say what was argued. If you stay here and participate in this squat training, then it's better. One leg up. The other leg up. Take the leg at the ankle. Take one in. And the other one. The leg to the side. Toes are pointing in front, stretch the inner side of the leg. And to the other side. And from side to side. Leg into the leg. And to the squats. We're a little short on time. So legs apart and to the squats. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5. And we're having a half. And number 7 and 8, 9 and 10. And last 2, 11 and 12. And to the next one. Quarter squat and press against the top part of the leg. Also on the other side. Half squat, middle of the leg. Other side. 3/4 squat, press close to the knee. Other side. And now press against the knee, go towards it. Other side. Press. Go towards it. Press. Go towards it. Press. Go towards it. Full squat, arms to the sides, over to one side, press against the leg. Other side, over, press against the leg. And a bit stretching. One heel onto the ground, pull the toes in. Pull to the left, pull in. To the right, pull in. Middle, move from left to right. Other side, heel onto the ground, pull the toes in. To the right, pull in. Left. Middle, move from left to right. One leg again up. Other leg. Take the leg at the ankle. Change. Next to the sides, breathing it out. Again. Breathe across the legs. And out. That was the squat training. I thank you very much and have a next time.